Hey guys, welcome to the Pink Room. This is a podcast, episode -3. As I catch everybody up to what's going on in my current life, I feel like I need to fill everybody in on the past. Although, let me throw a disclaimer out there that every single thing in this podcast is completely made up. If any of the names are identical to names that exist in reality, know that I just accidentally picked those names out of nowhere. Any of the information, stories, happenings, events are completely coincidence if they coincide with anything you've heard about happening in reality. These are the kind of disclaimers you have to put out if you're going to be very explicit in telling a story that sounds extremely plausible and like it may have happened in someone's life, even mine. But total disclaimer, absolutely positively, did any of this really happen? None of it. It's completely made up. So don't come back at me. Certainly not with your lawyers, not with any sort of, anger. This is all just fiction. It's purely fiction. And I'll remind everybody at the beginning of every podcast that although you may be able to Google lots of this and see evidence that these things may have happened, that it's completely made up. So I'm the host of this podcast, The Pink Room. The Pink Room is a guest room at my parents' house. So here we are, podcast -3, subscribers 0, and here we are at the very beginning. You're here at the very beginning. The Pink Room is the guest room at my parents' house. I was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer on April 15th of 2023. Immediately, about a few hours after being diagnosed, was scheduled for surgery about 30 hours later. And I'll get into that as I describe the history of exactly what's brought us up to this moment. But soon after surgery, I decided that for the sake of my kids, which are 13 and 15, that it would be a good idea if I had some help in case my health declines, when my health declines, by way of my parents helping out. So we moved back into my parents' house. My house sits empty just a few miles away. Just cold, empty, and mortgageless, while I'm here in my parents' guest room, the Pink Room. And I'll continue to be here until I have a better outlook on what's going to happen with my future, which I'll get into as we catch up with the present. But let's start this out by bringing you back to the very beginning, the first moments that I should have figured out that something was wrong. The beginning of this long journey that will weave its way, again, completely fictionally, through love, lust, a few random crushes along the way, the spreading of some great relationship advice, medical advice. Oh my goodness, there's no telling what you can learn from this podcast. Probably absolutely nothing. But way back, about a year and a half ago, I was working a food truck. Now, I'm a owner of a food truck. It's called Cart and Soul. We make Korean tacos. We're incredibly popular at the time. Our popularity has waned a little bit since so many new food trucks have been created after COVID, and we'll get into that. But so about a year and a half ago, I'm working a food truck event at the Chattanooga Market. More news on them later. And I start to feel a little faint. And I tell my workers, I'm like, listen, guys, I'm going to start working the door over here. I'm not feeling so well, right? So I go over and I'm working the door. All I have to do is hand people food, right? They're handling the cooking. They're taking money. There's a mad line. Everything's going crazy. It's the dead of summer. It's extremely hot. And the next thing I know, I just black out, right? Well, one of my workers looks out the window and sees me passed out under a tree in the dirt, comes over, gets me, and immediately my then girlfriend, who we'll refer to on this podcast in perpetuity as Voldemort, because we shouldn't say her real name, right? Again, this is all a fictional story, right? So we're going to bring Voldemort into this. It just coincidentally happens to be a Harry Potter villain whose name we are not supposed to say, but for the sake of this podcast, that we'll be using Voldemort as the name of this pretend girlfriend I had at the time. And she comes over, rescues me, picks me up. She goes over to, we'll call another Carlos, a taco worker, Carlos, Gets me some watermelon and just starts feeding me this watermelon, right? I come to, everyone wants to go to the hospital, and I say, listen, guys, I'm okay. I'm okay. I'm going to be okay. I refused to go to the hospital when I head home, and really, that was the beginning. A year and a half ago, that's when I should have gone to the hospital. I should have gotten all this under control, but I didn't, right? I didn't. Instead, I just powered through, and I kept working as best I could. And from that moment forward, really, my physical health was never the same, right? Until recently. So after that event, the weeks and months went on of food truck work, and my fatigue became stronger and stronger. My health issues began to sort of wear on a lot of relationships and how I behaved and these things. I was always tired. I was always fatigued. And that rolled around until about a year afterwards, right? No, not even a year. It was probably 6 months afterwards. I show up at work one day. I've been stressed to the gills. I've been working every day, 7 days a week, right? Me and Voldemort, busting our tails. Well, I roll into work one day, and suddenly we've been robbed. Go in my restaurant, equipment missing, shelves missing, all sorts of stuff. The cash drawers, they're all gone, guys. The cash drawers are all gone. Credit cards, gone. Everything's gone. The food truck, gone. It's vanished. I call the police immediately. Well, I'm on the phone with the police. They ask me a central question. They say, was this a robbery or a burglary? Look, who the fuck knows what the difference is, right? I didn't know at the time. So I said, look, what's the difference? And they go, well, did someone break in or did they not break in? That's the difference between a robbery and a burglary. So I think about it and I go, you know what? I unlocked the door. And then it sort of became clear as I checked my email, blocked out of the accounts. Credit card, business cards, blocked out. Business accounts, blocked out. My partner had come in the middle of the night, stolen all of this, stolen all the money, frozen all the accounts, changed them over to his name, canceled every food account, every business account we had, without a word. Had worked with him earlier that day, stole everything, right? So I call him, no answer, call him, no answer. Ask the police, no recourse. I immediately hire a lawyer and all this sort of stuff. To this day, have never spoken to the man. And I've even attempted to reconcile with him, right? After everything he's done, the low-down dirtiness, kind of the awfulness, the kind of shit that really God will rain down wrath on you for, right? Not a word, right? And we'll call him Ian, right? That's a good made-up name. If it coincidentally happens to be somebody's name I know, this is just a coincidence, right? But it's pure fucking asshole. I mean, who does that? Who does that sort of thing? So anyways, I'm in the middle of this health crisis, right? That's worsening. My partner does this to me. I'm suddenly out all of this revenue stream. So I have to replace everything with my personal money and try to keep going. And over the next few weeks, I'm busting my tail day and night, getting everything up and running. With what money I have left, I'm paying all the business out of my personal account. I'm paying all my employees out of my personal account, right? Including Voldemort. So that goes on for about 7 or 8 weeks, and it becomes clear that the lawyers aren't going to resolve this for about 6 months. Well, the end of August comes, right? This was May. The end of August comes. My physical health is awful. My mental health is awful. I've been betrayed by my business partner. What happens next? Voldemort just up and leaves. Just up and abandoned me. This is a woman who had lied to me, telling me she loved me day after day for 3 years, right? The kind of person you take on vacation. In theory, I'm not saying I really went on vacation with this person. This is all a made-up story, but to go on vacation with you and your kids and her kids and the things you say and being up all night and staying together all the time and all these things that you think are real until someone just up and leaves and betrays you. And, when you're at your lowest, both mentally, physically, spiritually, business-wise, and everything else. So like everything else, I just persevered, right? She leaves. She walks out the door. About 2 weeks later, a couple of business partners I have that are really employed by me come up, and they said, what do you think about the idea of us hiring Voldemort? And I'm like, no, that's a horrible idea. No, you can't hire Voldemort. She's left. She's gone. That can't happen. So what do? They sneak out in the middle of the night. They take all their stuff. They have an ongoing lease with me. They break it. They run away. They hire her. Talk about trash humans, right? So I'm kind of like getting sicker and sicker with cancer, while at the same time just being destroyed by these horrible, horrible people, right? The devil amongst them, the devil in them, right? Just horrible people. So this goes on, and I muscle through till winter. But about December 4th, I do my last event and make some money, and I have some bank, and I have a few, have a few properties. I'm doing okay. I'm doing okay. But physically, I'm just getting worse and worse, to the point that I'm having to lay down every day. To the point I'm questioning what's going on with my stomach. When I'm saying, and am I going to have a heart attack? My heart issues become severe. And I suddenly can't digest food, and I'm having all these symptoms of cancer, And the beginning of the year starts, and it just trickles worse and worse, to the point that in April of 2023, my father and mother had called me on the phone about 23 times, and I didn't answer because the phone was in the kitchen, and I was laying in bed starving, and I couldn't get up. I couldn't get out of bed, right? Shame on me. I should have gone to the doctor long ago, but when you're beat down by things and life beats you down, and you're just all you're doing is battling, and the last thing you want to do is give up. And to me, in my mind, going to the doctor was giving up. So never went to the doctor. My father finally comes over to my house, lets himself in, comes to the bedroom, sees me in the state I'm in, immediately has to pick me up, takes me to the hospital, right? So that was the beginning of the journey. I get to the hospital, and keep in mind, I had never really gone to the doctor, right? Never gone to the doctor. I had been born at this particular hospital, and the next time I went was on this journey. So April 15th, I go to the doctor. I go in. They order some blood work. They order a chest x-ray. And immediately do the blood work, do everything, and then they send me to the quick release area, right? I'm going to get out of there. And I'm kind of ready to get out of there, right? I mean, I've been dealing with all this for so long. I don't want any negative answers. I'm ready. Well, apparently they had seen the chest x-ray and very quickly sort of rolled back to the quick release area and were like, hey, listen, we want to do a CT before you go. I said, okay, I'm down for a CT. I don't know what that is, never had one, but here we go. So they rolled me back to CT, had the CT scan done, and literally as I'm walking out the door of the CT lab, the CT tech says, I'll be praying for you. And I thought, that's a little strange thing to say. Like, is he just overly kind and religious, or what does that mean, right? And I get taken back to the area where I was waiting before, right? Just sort of at a loss. And within 10 minutes, my doctor comes back, says, listen, Mr. Perry, you've got stage 4 cancer. You've got about 3 weeks to live. We're going to need to do surgery immediately. And what do you say to that? How do you react to that? I just said, okay, here we go. And I was really in a haze and a shock, and you don't know what to do. You don't know what to say. You just sort of are going through the motions, right? Was immediately admitted to the hospital, preparing for surgery. And that was the beginning of surgeries that I had to have. I was in the hospital for about 19 days. And fabulously, my doctor did preserve and eliminate cancer from my colon through those surgeries. And the bad news is that the cancer had metastasized to my liver. My liver was covered 85% in tumors, 9 tumors, 3 in each section of my tumor, upper, lower, middle. And my doctor came to me and said, listen, we've got to start chemotherapy immediately. I said, well, can I take a week off? I'm going to the beach. And he said, if you want to die, we can take a week off. And I said, okay, well, let's not go there. So immediately started chemotherapy, having no idea what that meant or how it was going to be and those sort of things. And was just part of the process. Now, we'll pick up there in this next podcast. But I do want to end this podcast in a little different direction. Fast forward to today. Here we are 8 months later. Those of you viewing this can see I still have my hair, right? Those are questions people have. Oh, how do you have your hair? How do you have this? There are 1,000,001 questions people have about cancer and misconceptions people have about cancer that they don't understand, and treatment. And let me tell you, although I may look pretty good for a cancer patient of 8 months, I feel awful. I feel awful, right? It is the hardest thing I've done in my life so far. And I hope I get to stop doing it one day. I'm just going to do my best until then. Now, we'll get to cancer and we'll get to all this. But let me just give you a little preview. If you thought my life was complicated, tough, and hard, filled with betrayal and craziness prior to my diagnosis, then you haven't been following my life since. From the moment I got home until this day has been without a doubt the craziest run of life. Betrayals, hateful people, great people, kind people that I've ever had in my entire life. It's very interesting. Those of you that watch the podcast will also get familiar with the fact that I'm an artist. In my 20s, I thought I was kind of a famous artist. I thought I was great. I thought I was good. That was before social media, right? It was during a time where you had to beg art galleries to have you in, and you could get a show anywhere you wanted, as long as you begged them long enough, or you paid them. And there was no way to go around those things. And then now, today, fast forward, and keep in mind, I took 18 years off painting, right? I wrote some books, did some things like that. I was married. Look, the truth is, there are technical artists, people who have technical skill, and those people end up painting corgis or doing magazine covers, and they do a few things like that, right? And they can monetize it pretty easily. But then there are artists, right? And artists really have to have something to say, okay? And I just didn't have anything to say for 18 years, right? We can get into my marriage later on. We can talk about that all you want. But in reality, I just didn't have anything to say until I was this diagnosis. And immediately was like, well, I've got to paint again. So I did a collection of 22 paintings that I put up for sale in the fall of 2023. Most of them sold. Lots of prints available and stuff like that, yada, yada, yada. But I continue to paint, and as long as I have something to say, that's what I'll do. So, as we think about this podcast all together, as here we are in pre-episode 3, right? Know that certainly I'm a wealth of horrible information when it comes to love, life, painting, and cancer. I'm not an expert on any of them. Don't really know anything about any of them, but I'm certainly willing to talk about it, right? So, here we are. So here we are in the throes of Christmas, right? And by the time episode 1 comes out, who knows what will be going on in the new year, right? But in the throes of Christmas, my kids are happy, which makes me happy. My painting's going well. My career's going well. Financially, I'm doing okay. But my love life is a train wreck, and we'll get to that. Holy smokes, will we get to that, right? But one thing I want to do in all the podcast moving forward is I do want to answer any questions that you have, any advice you may need, and preface it with whether you want good advice or bad advice, because I'm really good at giving bad advice, right? But if you need any advice when it comes to love, painting, cancer, or really just anything, breakfast cereals I'm also an expert at, right? You can email me. You can find the email link at on my TikTok, or you can even message me on Instagram or Facebook or anywhere else you find me. I'm pretty easy to find. All you got to do is Google Rocky Perry or The Pink Room, and you should be able to find it pretty easily. But I love giving advice, especially bad advice. If you need a little train wreck or a dumpster fire in your life, I can tell you exactly how to get it. Right? I can't necessarily tell you how to put it out or correct the course, but I definitely can share my experience with you, which is probably extensive. But anyways, thanks for joining me in the pink room. Again, this is a little rough. Again, everything here is made up, right? Of course, none of these things really happen. There is no Voldemort. There is no Ian. When we get around to other people, it's all made up, right? Of course, this can't be true. I may not even have cancer, guys. Who knows? Maybe I'm 100% well, and you can decide that for yourself. But I appreciate you guys being here, and we'll see how this goes. We'll see how it evolves. We'll see. And then next podcast, we will definitely pick up with what happens when I get home from the hospital. All right, guys. Love you guys. See you later.